Welcome everybody, Souldin of the Grin Brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. Now I'm going to use this opening bit of this Tea Time, which I think is like Tea Time 41 or a, fair sort of decent number of Tea Times there's been. I'll be using this opening bit to quickly just introduce to folks who may not be familiar as to what Tea Time is, because I've recently and finally, after sort of saying I would for so long, set up the Grin Brothers Tumblr account. Hooray! So some of you watching may be watching or finding out this video through Tumblr, where I've been posting sort of regular videos and where I'll be posting this following Tea Time. Basically what Tea Time is just a casual sort of sit down where I either discuss something or share a bit of news about something. For instance, like I'd recap Nintendo Direct and share my thoughts on it. That's one example. All whilst having a nice, delicious cup of tea. And the tea tends to vary quite a bit. My brother, my co-host on Grin Brothers, Raphael, also does tea time, but very rarely. You know, he doesn't usually have as much time as I do. And it's usually me who ends up doing the whole having something to talk about, whereas he usually uses that for the actual episodes themselves. Mainline Grim Brothers episodes. Oh, sorry about the coughing. As I said, that'll probably stay in because tea time is a very casual thing. It's very relaxed. I mean, I do have some form of quality control for it, but it's mostly just a very relaxed sort of going over something, sometimes without even proper preparation with it, really. Just I grab a tea and make one. Speaking of which, today's tea is Nighttime, a dreamy bed of organic oat flower, lavender and lime flower. I'm having it with milk this time. I'm kind of weird. I usually try milk with most of my teas. I believe I've had this on my previous tea time, this nighttime tea. Not sure if I had it with milk back then. But it's night when I'm recording this tea time, so I figured might as well have a nighttime tea to help me get to sleep, because as far as I'm aware, this is caffeine free and helps you get to sleep pretty much. So hopefully it will. Anyway, today's topic on tea time. Now, there's a funny thing about this. I actually sort of listed out a bunch of sort of topics I would like to discuss on tea time. However, these topics were rather sort of serious or dour sort of topics, and given that this tea time will mark the beginning of the Grin Brothers Christmas break, where we won't be uploading any videos for the next 2 weeks to, so we can enjoy Christmas. Raphael, on the other hand, will be enjoying his new job he's got, because he's working throughout most of the days of Christmas break, except for Christmas, because, no one's that cruel. But in any case, I wanted to sort of like mark off the sort of Christmas break for the Grin Brothers regular episode upload. There may be some tea times during that time though, with a sort of happier piece of news rather than something so serious as such. So I've had to scratch my brain trying to think of a sort of more jolly sort of conversation point, and I figured, well, last year I got an Xbox One, and I don't usually, and as a primarily Nintendo-based gamer, and one who primarily enjoys the games I play on my Wii U, I figured, hey, why don't I talk about my Xbox One that I got? Now, and at this point, sort of like almost 4 minutes into the thing, well, literally 4 minutes in, the title will finally have appeared for the subject. Yeah, this happens often on tea time for anyone who's new watching this. But in any case, the Xbox One and the Xbox series in general. I don't really have much of a history with the Xbox systems. I mean, the Xbox systems don't have much of a history to themselves. I mean, technically, yeah, I was going to still mention how the Microsoft helped out with the creation of the Dreamcast in a sense, but yeah, my very first video game console that I owned myself was actually a Dreamcast, so you could say that's sort of like a start into the Xbox lifeline, but not really. I never had the original Xbox, though I did get to play it from time to time for a friend, very rarely though. I did grow very fond of the game called Blinks. It was a game I absolutely loved, and now that I'm an owner of Xbox One, I always wish for a new Blinks game to be made for it. Unlikely, but I'll continue hoping. But yeah, never really owned an original Xbox. And I wasn't the one in the household who owned an Xbox 360. Rafi and our oldest brother were the ones who both owned Xbox 360s, whereas I never owned one. It is how I first experienced the Dead or Alive series with Dead or Alive. Well, my second proper experience. I remember experiencing it through Dead or Alive, that is, on the PlayStation. But when it came out for the Xbox 360, Dead or Alive 4, that's when I decided to try out the series, and it's become pretty much one of my favourite fighting games. I absolutely love the sort of gameplay style of Dead or Alive. It's a really easy to get into fighting game series, but with a surprising amount of depth and mastery to it. But yeah, Xbox 360, my first sort of game I played in was Dead or Alive 4. Rafi's was cameo Elements of Power, and we ended up playing both games, and we enjoyed them. And the Xbox 360 has been a rather enjoyable experience, but not one I put much attention to. I'm a huge fan of the Nintendo Wii. I absolutely love the sort of Nintendo Wii and its libraries, and a lot of its games are close to my heart, sort of thing. And with the Xbox 360, there have been some enjoyable experiences. I'm a big fan of Fable 1 and Fable 2, particularly Fable 2. And the good multi-platform games like Eternal Sonata and Sonic and All-Stars Racing. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. These were experienced with the Xbox 360. I also quite like the controller. The Xbox 360 controller is pretty darn brilliant. It's certainly one of the best controllers around. But I didn't own those. The Xbox One I ended up purchasing due to, well, a bunch of decent exclusives, and I thought that Microsoft had the best E3 presentation of 2014. So when a crystal white Xbox One with Sunset Overdrive came out, I ended up getting myself an Xbox One. Because that was a game I was really looking forward to, and I wanted a system that wasn't the typical black that was pretty much the standard for all the systems. I prefer the systems actually being white over black, frankly. Don't delve too deep into that. I just prefer the color scheme on the consoles. I mean, I'd prefer a grey color scheme even more, or even a more colourful or vibrant of lime green or orange, but I'll take what I can get. So I'm now, I've been for like the past year and a bit, the proud owner of an Xbox One, and I've had my ups and downs with it. In terms of the controller, it's a very good controller. I think it's kind of a step back from the Xbox 360 in a sense. I mean, it's not quite as comfortable. The shoulder buttons are a bit too sort of squished together. I'm not a fan of... I think they changed the name of what they said for the sort of like pause and select button, although I believe the 360 always had them as like forward and back sort of thing, but I can't remember off the top of my head. They did improve the D-pad. That was a great improvement on the Xbox, from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, because the D-pad on the 360 controller just wasn't very good. So I'm a fan of the sort of controller. That's a good point. I've been a fan of pretty much every game I've played on it, with exception to I think one. Sunset Overdrive was a fantastic game, and I've been playing Ori and the Blind Forest and Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, Worms Battlegrounds and Rogue Legacy, and these have been absolutely amazing games. I think recently, due to the release of Fallout 4, my brothers have been playing the Xbox One possibly even more than I've accumulated my entire time playing it. Even though I managed to complete Dead or Alive, I completed the story mode of Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Sunset Overdrive, and both its DLCs, I still think the amount of time my youngest brother, Rafi, and my oldest brother has spent playing Fallout 4 has easily managed to beat all those games of playtime combined at this rate. They've been playing it a ton. I mean, they were playing it a ton with Rogue Legacy as well, which, can't blame them on that one. Rogue Legacy is pretty darn awesome. But games-wise, I've been having a very enjoyable experience. Now, I'm not a particular fan of the dashboard on the Xbox One, particularly recently. Like, before its dashboard, its sort of like main menu was okay. Not nearly as good as what Nintendo have done. Nintendo have always had the best sort of like home screen so far, because they get the most amount of details on screen at once and in the clearest possible way for you to see it all. The Xbox One has this neat little sort of customizable aspect to it, which is pretty cool. But to get to a lot of the sort of different things, like the shop and all that, you have to switch over to another page. So it's not all sort of on the front screen. and the avatar system hasn't actually been properly implemented into it, which is a little disappointing. Recently, they, for some odd reason, decided to change a lot of it, and it's kind of made it worse, in my opinion. Not that I've had much time to actually fiddle around with it, because, again, my brothers have been playing Fallout 4 this entire time. Yeah, but despite not being a big sort of Xbox fan, per se, my choice of the system was down to... because I was considering, should I get a PS4 or an Xbox One as a sort of secondary console to my Wii U? Like, most people have the Wii U as their secondary console, but no, Wii U is definitely my primary system. Anything else is a secondary system to it. So I had a choice between Xbox One and PS4 when I was considering should I get another one, and the Xbox One just had better exclusives that I wanted. Like I said, Sunset Overdrive, Ori and the Blind Forest, and when it eventually comes out, Fable Legends is something I've been wanting to play. That'd be nice to play. And there were other influences to it as well, such as the controller. I'm not a fan of the PS4 controller. It's way too light for me. The Xbox One controller's a much better weight. Of course, my favourite controller is the Wii U gamepad. Because of its size and weight and the fact that it's got so many different features to it. Many will disagree with me on that, but in any case, I keep going on to the Wii U during this Xbox One conversation. Even as I try to talk about Microsoft, I end up talking about Nintendo. The irony. In any case, I've had a pretty enjoyable time with the Xbox One so far. I think as a system, there are things I like about it. The design of the console itself, despite how it does look like a VCR player, is still more interesting than the design of the Wii U and the PS4. They both look like very boring video game systems in terms of the console's design itself. The Xbox One strikes me as having some personality with its like thousands of air vents and, you know, the giant HDMI sticker plastered on the front of it. I'm not sure if it's a good personality, but it speaks volumes, as it were. It's a hefty size, which I just kind of appreciate that Microsoft always goes with these large, sort of heavy consoles. And like I said, it's got a good controller. I like the crystal white design for it. I like that it's got an eco-friendly setting for when you turn it on. That's a nice thing. The shop menu is pretty easy to navigate and sort of type in. Of course, I'd say the shop is somewhat easier than Nintendo's Wii U. It loads quicker, I feel. It doesn't sort of have any sort of hassle of, like colourful presentation or music sort of thing. You just sort of immediately get a sort of like search bar and just type in what you want. Of course, with the Wii, again, I keep detracting onto Wii U. But yeah, Xbox One, you can't just sort of type it in. You have to do it, with a controller, which isn't quite as efficient, but it works. It still works. It's not, it's tried and tested. But the dashboard has been a complaint that I've had. There were some nice things about it, though. The fact that your most recently played game will always pop up, even if you switch to a different game or a different game's on the disc. And you can sort of like, for instance, I'd find out about Dead or Alive 5 DLCs that I'm considered like the Halloween one, which I did actually purchase, or games that I know I want but didn't have the money for, such as Rogue Legacy, which I do now have. And I'd sort of like attach them to my dashboard. Those are some pretty darn cool features, and unlike the Wii U where they'd only pop up in the eShop, with the Microsoft's Xbox One's dashboard, they literally pop up on your page, so you don't have to go back to the sort of shopping area for it, which is really cool. And I quite like how I was able to, my experience starting Sunset Overdrive. It still annoys me that I got given a digital copy of the game instead of a physical copy. I'm a huge fan of physical copies. I don't like digital only, or digital copies of games. But Sunset Overdrive came as a digital copy of the Crystal White Xbox One. And when I started playing it, I was able to play it as it was still uploading, as it were. It hadn't fully downloaded. That was a very interesting experience. Very funny, admittedly. And I guess that's a feature I quite like. It's funny going about it. And you do get to get into the action a bit quicker if need be. Actually do something during that waiting period. A not so enjoyable experience occurred with Dead or Alive 5 Last Round, where I ended up entering like some sort of like code, which I thought was supposed to recover any lost data, which I didn't know if I had any lost data, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to try. But it actually unlocks everything in the game for you, and that is super boring. I mean, it'll take me forever going through all the arcade modes to unlock every character's costume, and even then, I can't buy like even like three quarters of them because, well, like hundreds of them because so many of them are DLC. But I had to try and delete my data so I could actually play from the beginning again, so I didn't have everything unlocked. But due to the Xbox One having a sort of cloud backup, this was a more complicated process than I'd have liked. It was rather frustrating and took me a while to actually sort that out. But yeah, the games are what matters though, and I've been having a very enjoyable experience with the games I've so far played on Xbox One. I've yet to be disappointed so far, but I think part of that could do with the fact that Project Spark was a bit disappointing. It's not really my sort of game. It finally cemented that I'm not a big fan of creation games, which is odd given that I like writing and fan fiction and all that. In any case, the games, I haven't actually bought that many of the games as they've come out on the Xbox One, but I've had a great experience with each of them that I have actually gotten around to playing. And next year, well, Microsoft will have a lot to try and please me with because the Xbox One has a lot of games I'm looking forward to coming out next year. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, Quantum Break, Scalebound, Arslan, The Legendary Warriors, I believe I got that right. I'll correct myself if need be. I must admit, I'm quite interested in Unravel and Stranger of Sword C. They're maybes at the moment. I'm not, big on digital downloading again. Ori and the Blind Forest was a case that, my gosh, that game pretty much was, if backed up with Fable Legends and Sunset Overdrive, Ori and the Blind Forest convinced me to get an Xbox One. So that one I didn't even need to think about. But yeah, there's a lot of games coming to Xbox One next year. And Fable Legends, because that got delayed to 2016. Been waiting on that for a long while. There's a lot of games that I'm looking forward to next year on the Xbox One. So unlike this year where there haven't been that many, I've only bought 3 and a bunch of DLC for Sunset Overdrive. Although technically I got that for a season pass. So it was there's a lot. It's got its true chance to try a true sort of time to prove itself to me next year when I dip into many more games. Like the Wii U, I've had some failings with some of the games that I haven't enjoyed quite so much, but I've dipped into the Wii U's library a lot more. And I've got several more games on the Wii U than I have the Xbox One. I think if including both downloads, I think at least 3 times as many at this point. But next year, the Xbox One's got so many games coming out that, will one of them be a dud? I really hope not. I really hope that I continue to enjoy the Xbox One. I hope that the dashboard becomes better with further updates. And possibly, if I consider getting an external hard drive, I may consider taking advantage of the backwards compatibility. It would be nice to be playing Fable 2 on my Xbox One without having to use any of my brother's computers for it. So then, I believe that should do. I've talked about the Xbox One quite a bit. I've enjoyed the system. It's, of course, still my secondary system of choice. Microsoft just don't have the IPs to sort of pull me in. I mean, I love Fable, but... and I really like Blinks the Cat, but they haven't made a new one of those in ages. In any case, now is the usual time of tea time where I try out my tea. You know what? The nighttime tea actually tastes better with milk. It's a pucker nighttime tea. Just in case, sometimes the brands do taste quite a bit differently. For instance, PG Tips and Tetley, sort of English breakfast, those teas taste drastically different. But in regards to this, the pucker nighttime tea with milk is a lovely tea. Still got that nighttime kick to it, but it doesn't immediately hit your tongue like nighttime usually does. So the tea sort of goes down smoother, and then you get a nice little kick to it. Eventually, I'll have a nice refreshing feeling in my throat and actually feel very sleepy. So, yeah, nighttime tea. It knocks you out. The that's my discussion on my current sort of feelings on the Xbox One at the moment. I hope you enjoyed, and feel free to share your feelings on what I've discussed here, or if you happen to own an Xbox One, however you feel about the Xbox One. Cheerio for now.